You need to watch this if you crave chills down your spine. Welcome to Soul Studios. Here, true crime meets the unknown. Suspense lurks in every shadow, and supernatural forces whisper from the dark. We craft chilling, edge-of-your-seat short stories inspired by the eerie, the unexplained, and the most haunting mysteries. 3 new stories drop every week, each one darker than the last. Are you ready to step inside? Subscribe now before the next story finds you.
January 25th, 1998, a young American couple set out on what was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime, scuba diving the legendary Great Barrier Reef. But somewhere between the brilliant coral gardens and the wide open sea, something went terribly wrong. Hours later, their dive boat returned to shore, without them. What followed was a desperate, unfolding nightmare, one that would expose shocking oversights, spark international headlines, and leave behind eerie clues that trickled in over weeks and months. To this day, their disappearance remains one of the ocean's most haunting mysteries. This isn't a movie. This really happened. If you love chilling, true account horror stories that make you question how something like this could happen, subscribe to Soul Studios and turn on notifications. Because sometimes, the scariest stories are the ones that are true. A thin plastic slate floats on the moonlit waves, scrawled with a desperate message. To anyone who can help us, we have been abandoned. Please help rescue us before we die. Help! 2 exhausted divers cling to each other in the vast open ocean, 37 miles from shore. There's nothing around them but endless water and the creeping dread of what lurks beneath. They scream into the empty night, but their voices are swallowed by the roar of the sea. And no one is coming. Not yet. This was supposed to be a routine adventure, a day trip to the Great Barrier Reef. Instead, it became a true account of horror that inspired the film Open Water. But the real story is far more unsettling. How did 2 experienced divers end up left behind in shark-infested waters? And what happened to them during those 2 cruel days before anyone even realized they were missing? It all began on a bright Sunday morning in January 1998. Eileen and Tom, a married couple from Baton Rouge, step aboard the MV Outer Edge, a dive boat headed for St. Crispin's Reef off Australia's coast. This trip was a celebratory treat. They'd just finished a Peace Corps tour in the Pacific and wanted one last adventure before heading home. Eileen, 28, is an avid diver, and her husband, Tom, 33, is a newly certified enthusiast, eager to explore the Coral Sea with her. The mood on deck is cheerful, as 26 passengers and 5 crew set out for 3 dive sessions on the reef. The day's first 2 dives go smoothly. Rainbow fish dart through vibrant coral as the couple glides underwater side by side. By mid-afternoon, they arrive at the 3rd and final dive site, a spot aptly nicknamed Fish City for its teeming marine life. The water is calm and inviting. As everyone plunges in for the last dive around 3 p.m, Eileen and Tom decide to separate from the group for a bit, eager to explore the reef's nooks on their own. They signal this plan to another diver and then vanish into the blue expanse together, just a pair of bubbles amid the reefs. Below, it's an underwater paradise. Above, dark clouds gather unnoticed. After about 40 minutes, divers begin to resurface. Waves start picking up. The Outer Edge crew, preparing for departure, does a head count, or so they think. In the confusion, gear clanking, people climbing up, and even a couple who jump back in for a quick extra swim, a devastating mistake is made. The crew member counts 26 heads in a rush, not realizing 2 of those heads were counted twice as they reboarded after a swim. The captain, Jeffrey Nairn, gets the all-aboard signal. At 3:50 p.m, the Outer Edge powers up and leaves the reef behind, beginning the 60-kilometre journey back to Port Douglas, leaving Eileen and Tom still below the surface, completely unaware that their ride home is disappearing. Several minutes later, Eileen and Tom break the surface, exhilarated from their private dive, until they realize something is terribly wrong. The vast ocean stretches in every direction, and the dive boat is gone. At first, they think it must be a mistake. The outer edge might be just out of sight behind a reef spire. But then the crushing truth sets in. They have been left behind. Their fellow divers and crew have vanished over the horizon, utterly oblivious to the two people still in the water. Floating in their wetsuits and buoyancy vests, the couple frantically scans for any sign of a boat. Nothing. Only choppy grey-blue waves and the lowering sun. Panic surges, but they fight to stay calm. They have about 40 minutes of daylight left and a few slim assets, their masks, snorkels, and partially filled air tanks. About 2 millimeters of neoprene wetsuit for warmth, and each other. No food, no fresh water, no radio. They begin shouting and blowing their whistles, hoping against hope the boat might hear and turn around. But the outer edge is long gone. Engines drowned out by distance. Eileen forces a smile she doesn't feel and tells Tom they'll be okay. Surely the crew will realize the mistake soon and rush back. Tom nods, but his eyes betray him. He knows how these operations work. In fact, earlier that week, Tom had oddly fixated on their itinerary, repeatedly asking if Outer Edge or any other boat would visit a nearby reef called Agincourt. Now, as light fades, a gnawing dread grows in his stomach that no one will notice they're missing until it's too late. As dusk falls, the ocean around them transforms from turquoise paradise to an endless black void. Each swell lifts and drops them, making it harder to stay together. Temperatures plunge. Even in tropical waters, prolonged exposure will sap body heat. Eileen's teeth chatter as she clutches Tom's hand. Every brush of seaweed or ripple below makes them flinch. They know sharks often hunt at dusk and dawn on the reef. The couple kicks their legs slowly to stay afloat, painfully aware that beneath them it's 100 feet deep, plenty of room for predators to circle unseen. Suddenly, something bumps Eileen's leg. She sucks in a breath, heart pounding. What was that? A dark fin slices the water a few yards away. Tom swings his flashlight beam. They carried small dive torches and catches a glint of a grey reef shark curiously cruising by. It's not large, maybe 5 feet, but where there's one, there could be more. The couple huddles close, trying not to thrash or attract attention. In the gloom, phantom shapes seem to come and go. Lightning flickers on the horizon and a distant rumble of thunder rolls across the sea. Eileen whispers a quavering prayer. Tom squeezes her hand. They must get through this night. Hours drag by in suffocating darkness. The loneliness is absolute. Back on land, their shuttle bus driver waits at the dock for Eileen and Tom, puzzled when they don't show. But after an hour, he leaves, assuming they caught another ride. No alarm is raised. In fact, no one will realize the couple is missing until 2 days later. For Eileen and Tom, however, every minute feels like an eternity. Salt water has chafed their skin raw under the wetsuits. Occasionally, they try to lighten the mood. Gallows humor about, "That time we missed the boat." But the laughs die quickly. In the pitch black, each imagines what death by drowning might feel like. Tom's mind drifts to a journal entry he wrote months ago, grappling with despair. Eileen recalls how Tom had seemed troubled lately, wrestling with dark thoughts he kept to himself. She pushes that memory away. They have to survive, there's no time for negativity. Above them, the sky is brilliant with stars. Somewhere among them is the Southern Cross constellation, a navigational beacon for sailors. Tom tries to remember his survival training from years ago as a military pilot. They consider whether to attempt swimming towards something. But in which direction? There might be small sandy cays or outer reefs like Agincourt nearby, but in the darkness it's impossible to tell. And swimming apart risks losing each other. They decide to stay put, conserve energy, and keep each other awake through the night. Every so often bioluminescent plankton sparkle around them, as if the ocean itself is taunting them with false hope. Sharks intermittently appear, mostly reef sharks, which thankfully seem more curious than aggressive for now. One larger silhouette cruises beneath their kicking legs and vanishes. It's a tiger shark, maybe 10 feet long, drawn by the vibrations of 2 tired humans drifting in its domain. Tom tightens his grip on the dive knife strapped to his calf, knowing it's laughably small against such a creature. As the night deepens, their limbs grow numb and heavy. Eileen stifles sobs of exhaustion. Tom quietly promises, "We'll see morning soon. Hang on." Inside, he isn't sure he believes it. He wonders if this is how he dies, lost at sea, and a morbid part of him almost accepts it. But Eileen, he can't say it out loud. But Tom fears Eileen won't last if the ordeal extends. He wraps his arm around her and wills the dawn to come. Finally, after a lifetime of darkness, the sky begins to lighten. Monday, January 26, 1998, 8 a.m., according to Tom's water-resistant watch. The sunrise paints blood-orange streaks on the water. With daylight, the couple can see they are surrounded by seemingly endless ocean, the gentle rise of swells in every direction, and not a single boat or plane. Their hearts sink. They had hoped the outer edge or a search party would be scouring the area by now. Surely, someone noticed they were missing yesterday, but the morning horizon is empty. Eileen's lips are cracked and salt-encrusted. She is terribly thirsty. Ironically, floating in water only makes them more dehydrated. They haven't had a drop of fresh water since the previous day. Tom spots something in the distance, a dark shape on the water. "A boat!" Eileen gasps hoarsely. They wave and whistle with the last of their strength, but as it drifts closer, their hope shatters. It's not a boat at all, but a piece of driftwood bobbing along. Eileen chokes back tears. The sun is now beating down brutally, and they have no shelter. They both know the risks of exposure: dehydration, heat stroke, delirium. They decide to take turns resting, lying back in their inflated vests. While Eileen closes her eyes for a moment, Tom busies himself writing on his diver's slate, a small plastic writing pad with pencil usually used for underwater notes. With pruned, trembling fingers, he scratches down the date, time, and their dire situation. Monday, January 26, 1998, 8 a.m. Eileen and Tom abandoned on Agincourt Reef by MV Outer Edge on January 25, 3 p.m. "Please help us before we die, help." He secures the slate to a strap on his vest, hoping if they don't make it, maybe this message will float to someone, somewhere. Unknown to Tom, this exact act will later provide haunting evidence of their fate. As midday sun blazes, the situation grows critical. They have drifted into the vicinity of Agincourt Reef, a neighbouring reef system. In the crystal-clear shallows, they can see sharp coral below. Desperate for relief, they attempt to swim to the reef to maybe stand or find something to cling to. The coral is razor-sharp but offers no real land, just submerged outcrops. Eileen tries to sit on a ledge of coral to rest, but immediately cries out. The coral rips into her wetsuit and skin. She has to push off, leaving a piece of her suit snagged. Both of them now have painful scrapes. A bit of blood blooms in the water from Eileen's cut. Tom's eyes widen. Blood scent in shark territory is a nightmare. Sure enough, within an hour, they notice a few reef sharks reappearing, investigating the water where tiny droplets dispersed. The couple retreats to floating, moving away from the reef to avoid more cuts, but now every shadow under them feels menacing. By afternoon, the tropical sun is unrelenting. Eileen's head throbs. She's severely dehydrated. Both of them are. Salt-crusted and sunburnt, they start to feel the first signs of heat exhaustion and delirium. Their conversation turns fuzzy. Tom thinks he hears a plane engine and excitedly points to the sky, but there's nothing. The mind is playing tricks. Sometime in the late afternoon of day 2, Eileen and Tom are still miraculously alive, but barely. Floating for over 30 hours, their strength is fading. In Port Douglas, only now is a massive search operation gearing up. The alarm was finally raised when the Outer Edge crew found Eileen and Tom's unattended bags and passports on the boat that returned. Rescue planes and boats have fanned out, but they are looking in the wrong areas, not realizing the couple has drifted far from St. Crispin's Reef. The searchers' aerial spotters scan waves and atolls, unaware that 2 tiny figures are miles outside their grid. Tom and Eileen don't know any of this. They still hope every distant buzz or speck might be salvation. But hope is almost gone. Eileen's skin is hot to the touch, and she's starting to hallucinate. She mumbles about seeing an island or people. There are none. Tom, dizzy with fatigue and despair, faces a horrible choice. Do they keep fighting, or is it kinder to slip under the waves and end it? Perhaps these thoughts have crossed his mind before. Eileen had once written in her diary that Tom seemed ready to die. He hopes it happens soon. But to actually give up now with his beloved wife at his side, can he do that? A large swell separates them for a moment. Tom struggles back to Eileen, who weakly kicks her legs but is barely responsive. He realizes with dread that Eileen might die first if no rescue comes today. The idea of being alone out here, or worse, watching her slip away, is unbearable. He makes a decision. In a voice cracking with emotion, Tom tells Eileen they should take off their gear. He argues that the heavy dive belts and tanks are dragging them down, that they might float easier without them. In truth, the gear has helped keep them buoyant. Removing it at this stage is dangerous. Eileen blinks in confusion. Even in her fog, she knows the gear is their lifeline. She refuses, clinging to Tom, pleading silently not to do anything drastic. Tom's face is sunburnt and tears cut clean lines down his cheeks. Perhaps he believes this is merciful. Perhaps the delirium is whispering lies. He gives her a final embrace. Then, with a last pained smile, he unbuckles his own buoyancy vest. Before Eileen can react, Tom slips out of his flotation and kicks away. "Tom, no!" She shrieks, suddenly galvanized with terror. She lunges for him, but he's already a few feet off, treading water without his vest. His eyes look distant, unfocused. Eileen cries out again, reaching, but Tom's head dips beneath a wave. Panicking, Eileen inflates her vest fully and dives under, trying to grab him. Underwater is a swirl of bubbles. She catches a glimpse of Tom sinking slowly, arms outstretched toward her. For a moment, time freezes. Husband and wife reach for each other beneath the waves, shafts of sunlight piercing the blue. But Tom's weight belt and exhaustion are pulling him down faster. Eileen's fingers swipe the water, barely missing his. His face is calm now, almost peaceful, disappearing into the deep. She lets out a muffled scream through her snorkel. Eileen surfaces, gasping and sobbing. Tom is gone. Shock and grief overwhelm her, but instinct forces her to inflate her vest again and stay afloat. She is utterly alone now, adrift in an indifferent sea. The sun is low. Another night is coming. With a trembling hand, she pulls out the small diver's slate still strapped to Tom's vest, now draped around her shoulder. Through tears, she sees the faint pencil marks of Tom's final message, a message meant for someone, anyone, to find. Please help us, before we die. What happens in Eileen's final hours remains a mystery. Perhaps she clung to hope a little longer, scanning the starry horizon for rescue. Perhaps, after another lonely, terrifying night, she too decided to slip beneath the waves to end the suffering. No one knows for sure. Eileen and Tom never made it home. Their bodies were never found. The Great Barrier Reef eventually swallowed all traces of them, almost. In the months that followed, the tragedy of the missing American divers made headlines worldwide. An extensive air-sea search covered 8,000 square miles, but found nothing during those first days. For a while, it was as if Eileen and Tom had vanished off the face of the earth. The captain of the dive boat was charged with manslaughter for negligence, and the world demanded answers. Then, strange clues began to surface, literally. 2 days after the incident, some of the couple's diving gear washed ashore on a remote beach, including inflatable vests with Tom and Eileen written on them, a dive tank, and pieces of wetsuit. Tellingly, the gear showed no bite marks or damage from sharks, suggesting the Lonergans did not meet a violent end by predators. Experts theorized that in their delirium, they had voluntarily removed their equipment in the water, losing the buoyancy that kept them alive. It fit with what likely happened in those final moments we imagined, a slow surrender to the sea. 5 months later, a fisherman walking along the coast near Cooktown, 75 miles from where the couple vanished, found a sun-faded diver's slate washed up in the sand. The handwriting was barely legible, but investigators determined it was more than likely written by Tom. It was the exact message Tom had composed as hope was dwindling. Monday, January 26, 1998, 8 a.m. To anyone who can help us, we have been abandoned by MV Outer Edge. Please help us before we die. Help. The Slate's desperate plea confirmed the couple survived through that first night and into the next morning, only to succumb sometime afterward. The ocean had kept their final words secret for months before finally delivering them to shore. In the aftermath, unsettling theories swirled. During the inquest, it emerged that Tom Lonergan had been battling depression and even wrote in his diary about wanting to end his life. On January 9, 1998, just weeks before the dive, Eileen noted in her journal that Tom was ready to die. Hopes it happened soon, though she herself did not share that wish. She loved him deeply but feared he might pull her into a dangerous situation against her will. These revelations recontextualized the tragedy in a chilling way. Had Tom, consciously or subconsciously, orchestrated their isolation? He had inquired oddly specifically about Agincourt Reef beforehand. Some wondered if he planned for them to be forgotten by the boat, as a twisted opportunity for a joint suicide or to start new lives under new identities. One witness even claimed to have seen the couple alive 2 days after their disappearance, browsing calmly in a bookstore, which fueled wild speculation. However, Eileen's family vehemently dismissed these theories as cruel and unfounded. They believe the simplest explanation is the true one. A careless accident left Tom and Eileen stranded, and they died a horrible, lonely death at sea. The coroner agreed, ultimately ruling it an accidental drowning and holding the dive company culpable for grievous negligence. The boat's captain was acquitted of manslaughter, but the dive company was fined and shut down in disgrace. To this day, the true fate of Eileen and Tom Lonergan remains partly ambiguous. No definitive evidence could prove a suicide pact or a secret escape, only that the couple was abandoned in unforgiving waters and never seen again. In the end, the most haunting theory is likely the true one. They fought to survive as long as humanly possible, enduring a nightmare of 2 days before the ocean finally claimed them. The next time you find yourself gazing out at the open sea, remember this story. 2 ordinary people went looking for a thrill in paradise and met an unthinkable horror. The ocean can be breathtaking and beautiful, but it's also vast, indifferent, and at times merciless. Eileen and Tom's last hours were filled with pain, fear, and unwavering love for each other. Their story stands as a chilling, cautionary tale and a reminder. In the immense wilderness of the ocean, we are tiny, fragile, and alone. In the end, the vastness of the ocean kept its secret, leaving only fragments of the Lonergans' final hours to wash ashore. Whether it was a cruel accident, a desperate choice, or something darker, we may never truly know. But one thing is certain. Out there, in the endless blue, the line between life and death is thinner than you think. 2 divers went into paradise and were never seen again.
Every story has an end, but here, the mysteries never stop. Thank you for watching and being a part of this journey into the unknown. Your support keeps these stories alive, and there's plenty more waiting for you. We drop 3 new stories every week, so if you crave suspense, the unexplained, and the downright chilling, make sure you're subscribed and ready for what's next. Until then, keep your lights on, your doors locked, and remember, some stories stay with you long after they're told.